Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sunil Luchania and I used to upload various videos related to forensic medicine and toxicology on this channel named as Forensic Extract. So please do subscribe the channel and press the bell icon and give your valuable comments in the comment box. So thank you so much and keep on watching, stay tuned. And today we will be discussing about the thermal deaths. First we are going to cover burns, various types of burns and details, and then we will be covering hypothermic injury in coming videos. Thank you so much, stay tuned. Thank you.
So guys, this topic is extremely important for entrance as well as university examinations, and the topic is thermal death. So what do you mean by thermal deaths? Any death or any injury due to thermal effect, and the effect may be systemic or localized due to exposure of excessive heat or cold. So this is the thermal death. Now in this video we will discuss about the effect of heat, and first is the burn. So what do you mean by burn? Any injury that is produced by application of heat or chemical substance. So this is the injury that is produced by application of heat or any chemical substance. So this is known as burn. Now what happens after heat and application of chemical substance? There is tissue destruction. So as a general knowledge, the minimum temperature for producing a burn, that is 44 degree Celsius, that has to be applied for 5 to 6 hours. This is minimum temperature 44. But if 65 degrees Celsius temperature is applied for only 2 seconds, it can sufficient to produce significant burns. And temperature more than 70 degree Celsius can cause full thickness, destruction of skin. So now what are the common causes of burn? First is the commonly due to flame, due to effect of flame. And what happens due to the effect of flame? There is singeing of hair and blackening of skin. So this is the main effect on hair, that is singeing, and on the skin there will be blackening, and in severe cases there may be charring. Now there can be due to heated solid body, and that may produce injury corresponding to the size of that solid heated body. Now there may be due to explosions, there may be due to some petrochemical substance like petrol, kerosene. So in this kind of burn, we will note characteristic odor will be there. Characteristic odor is significant finding. Burns can be due to various X-rays or can be simply due to radium, and it can cause redness of the skin because it causes dermatitis. Now burns can be due to corrosive substances. It can cause blister formations, can lead to ulcers. So these are the common cause of burns. Now the classification of burns, it is important. How do we classify burns? Classification. So classification, basically first classification was given by the Dupuytren. He was French military surgeon. He was military surgeon Dupuytren. He gave first classification. That classification is further modified by Wilson and Hebra. So first we will discuss the Dupuytren's classification. That is the first degree. What do you mean by first degree? First degree classification is the if burn are only causing erythema and redness. Burns are causing erythema and redness. Only there is erythema and redness is there, and this is first degree. Now the second degree classification. What do you mean by second degree? If there is formation of blisters, there is singeing, and mostly there is complete repair without formation of any scar. It repairs without any living scar. Now the third degree burn. Third degree burns are basically involves the and causes complete epithelial destruction. There is complete epithelial destruction. It reaches up to the upper layer of dermis, and in this kind of burns, the pain fibers are exposed. That's why this is most painful burn. These are the burns which are painful burns. Now the fourth degree burns, in which the whole dermis is destroyed, all dermal appendages and fatty tissues are destroyed. These burns are painless because pain fibers are destroyed. The whole dermis is destroyed, and there is characteristic finding of charring and scar formation. Now because there is a repair due to formation of scar, and thus there is chances of contractures. Now the fifth degree burn. Fifth degree burns are the burns in which muscles are destroyed, involvement of muscles, and they are also painless due to destruction of nerve fibers. The last one is sixth degree burns. These burns which are up to the level of bone, and there is complete charring. It's seen in sixth degree burn. So these 6 degrees are classified by the Dupuytren's. Now later on these degrees are modified by Wilson and Hebra. So first and second, these two are known as epidermal burn. First and 2, these are known as epidermal burn by Wilson and Hebra. The third and fourth, these two are known as dermoepidermal burns, and fifth and sixth are known as deep burns. So this is the classification of Wilson and Hebra, and these 6 degrees were classified by Dupuytren. Now this classification is the classification on the basis of the pathology. So this is known as pathological classification. This is pathological classification of burns. Now the clinical classification can be divided by partial thickness burn, partial or complete thickness burn. So in partial thickness burn, there is the partial thickness of skin is only involved. The skin is not completely destroyed, completely destroyed, and these are painful as the nerve endings are exposed. We can further divide partial thickness burns as superficial dermal and deep dermal. So these kind of burns, the superficial dermal burns, are painful because nerve endings are exposed, but deep dermal burns are painless. These are painless, but touch sensation is present. Touch sensation is present. So in deep dermal burns, type of partial thickness burns, there is touch sensation but there is no pain sensation. But what happens in case of complete thickness burns? There is complete loss of pain as well as touch sensation. Pain and touch sensation will not be present in case of full thickness burn, because there is destruction of entire epidermis as well as dermis, both are destroyed. Now one important finding, how do we measure the extension of bones, or that can be measured by surface area. That can be measured by surface area, and one famous rule that is as depicted in the picture, that is known as rule of 9. So it is the rule of 9. This rule was first given by in 1951 by one Scottish surgeon, Dr. A.B. Wallace. A.B. Wallace. So that's why it is also known as Wallace's rule of 9. It is also known as Wallace's rule of 9. Now, as depicted in the picture, there are various percentages are decided in the rule of 9, so that we can calculate the various areas, the surface area of the body in which the bones are present. Like both the upper limbs are 9%, then the upper part of this upper body and lower body are 99%, and so on. So this is rule of 9. We can calculate accordingly the total percentage of burns. Now one more chart, that is known as Luynes and Browder's chart. That is known as Luynes and Browder's chart. It is also important in calculating the percentage of burns. It is most accurate. This chart is most accurate, and it is more significant as compared to rule of 9, because what happens in the children's, there is large head and neck. The head and neck area of children are large. Head and neck are large as compared to lower body. So that's why there is this Luynes and Browder chart is devised for them. And what in the Luynes and Browder chart, there are 3 areas of body are involved. The first, the A is the head region, then the B are the thigh, and the C for the legs. So these 3 things, one is head, thighs and legs are involved, and they are there are different percentage of according to different age group, like at birth, at 1 year, at 5 year, 10 years, 15 year, and adult, there is percentage of different areas. Rest all areas are already fixed, so we will change the percentage according to the age for these 3 areas only. So this is Luynes and Browder chart. This is more significant and more accurate as compared to rule of 9. Now one important question is that what can be the cause of death in case of burn injuries. So if person died immediately, so what are the immediate cause of death? Immediate means within 24 hours. So immediate death can be due to accidents, maybe due to fall accidents or any other accidents, maybe due to neurogenic shock, or maybe due to any poisoning like CO poisoning, carbon monoxide poisoning. Now what are the causes of late death? Late is after 24 to few months. So what are the causes of late death? First is there may be biochemical disturbances, electrolyte imbalance, biochemical, hypokalemia, hyperkalemia, and so curling ulcers. There may be gangrene and pyemia formation, pyemia formation. There may be carbon monoxide inhalation, cyanide poisoning. Now what happens in 75% cases of burn, the mortality is always related to infection. So the commonest cause is septicemia. Septicemia is the common late cause of burn. Now some causes can cause death in very late cases, like formation of Marjolin ulcer. Marjolin ulcer is the cancerous transformations of the burn area, or it is basically malignant transformation. Malignant transformation is Marjolin ulcer. So these ulcers can convert into cancerous growth, then that can be dangerous. Now something about the post-mortem changes. Post-mortem changes, basically appearance, post-mortem appearance. So we'll divide them into external findings. So what external findings? First we will note cloths. Cloths, always remember that cloths has to be removed and preserved in plastic bags. Cloths have to be removed and preserved in plastic bags or in airtight bottles. Smell of the cloth is very significant finding for detection of any substance that can that has caused burns. So clothes, examination of clothes is a very significant finding that has to be done. Now the facial features. Face, usually the face is swollen. And most cases what happens, that eyes are shrunken, eyes are closed and shrunken. Tongue is burnt, the external orifices are full of mucus or some secretion or pus. Now some important finding is known as crow's feet sign. So what do you mean by crow's feet sign? What happens, these are the areas without burns or soot particles. There are the deposition of soot particles on the forehead or the angle of eyes or nasolabial fold. These 3-4 areas are spared because of what happens, that due to pain there is contraction of facial muscles, and there is non-deposition or non-penetration of smoke into the base of wrinkles. So there are various areas of devoid of these carbon particles or soot particles. These areas appears as crow feet. So this can be one sign of antemortem burns, because it shows that person was alive before or at the time of the burns. Now sometimes neck may be confusing for pseudo ligature or pseudo strangulation, because what happens in the wrinkles of neck, there is a sparing of this soot particle won't be found deposited in the wrinkles. So that's why there will be sparing of neck in some cases that may be mistaken by pseudo strangulation. Now one important finding that is frequently asked, that is known as pugilistic attitude. So pugilistic attitude, what do you mean by pugil? Pugil means one boxer is known as pugil, and this attitude, the pugilistic attitude, otherwise known as defense attitude, or it is also known as heat rigor or heat stiffening. So it is basically characteristic attitude adopted by the body after severe burns. And what are the common cause of this pugilistic attitude? Maybe due to burns, maybe due to fall in hot liquid, maybe due to high voltage electric shock. Now, what is the mechanism of pugilistic attitude? What happens that there is coagulation of muscle protein, and there is dehydration and development of contractures. In pugilistic attitude, as the flexors being bulkier, so contraction of flexors is more as compared to extensors. So that's why the characteristic posture is seen. And in more than 50 degrees Celsius, usually normal rigor mortis does not appear in such muscles. So this kind of attitude is seen at more than 50 degrees Celsius, and rigor mortis will not appear in these muscles because muscles are already heat coagulated. Now the posture is something that is characteristic, in which the head will be slightly extended, and the arms are in front of the body. Arms will be in front of the body and flexed at the elbow, and these are flexed at the elbow and the wrist joint, and finger are hooked like claws. Now the posture is opisthotonous. This is opisthotonous posture, and due to this opisthotonous posture is due to contraction of paraspinal muscles, which leads to opisthotonous posture. And what is characteristic is that there is delayed decomposition because intense heat causes heat fixation and inactivating the autolytic enzymes. So heat fixation is inactivating the autolytic enzyme that is responsible for delayed decomposition. So delayed decomposition is seen in this pugilistic attitude or heat rigor. Now the muscles of pugilistic attitude are contracted and desiccated. Now these muscles are characteristically appears as cooked meat and brownish pink. The character is characteristically brownish pink in color as cooked meat appearance. Now degree and severity of the pugilistic attitude depends upon the intensity of contracture, and basically it also depends upon the amount of heat and duration of exposure. Now this pugilistic attitude is basically occurs irrespective of whether the victim was alive or dead. So it's not related to the whether the victim was alive or dead. So we are not able to tell that the person was alive or dead. So it's not a sign of antemortem burn. This can be confusing in various cases. While you will visit crime scene and you will find the body after burn or in enclosed space in pugilistic attitude. So we cannot decide the burns are antemortem or the postmortem based on the pugilistic attitude. So it's not a sign of pugilistic sign of antemortem burn. Now there may be some difference that is frequently asked in various university examination. That is what is the difference between pugilistic attitude and the rigor mortis? So this is the another important question. that is frequently asked. What happens in pugilistic attitude? Muscles are basically contracted and like cooked meat, so there is the contracture is pronounced. But in the rigor mortis the contraction is minimal. Then it is due to intense cooking of the muscles and heat coagulation. So heat coagulation is there. It is due to formation of actin-myosin complex. Temperature is more than 50 degree Celsius in case of pugilistic attitude, but no role of temperature as such in case of rigor mortis. It can be antemortem, can be postmortem. It can be antemortem, can be postmortem, but the rigor mortis is always postmortem. But it is the pugilistic attitude may be associated with blackening, charring, or blister formation. Blisters. Rigor mortis never associated with blackening, charring, and blister formations. So these are basic differences between pugilistic attitude and rigor mortis. If someone asks, then you can easily answer. Now, one important thing is that heat ruptures. You may not heat ruptures or simply splitting, heat splittings. Now what happens due to exposure of intense heat? There is splitting of soft tissues. So sometimes we need to differentiate these heat ruptures from lacerated wounds. So basically these are due to exposure of intense heat, and these are blunt force trauma. These are the injuries which are produced by blunt force. Usually in case of heat rupture, the bleeding is absent. Because there is heat coagulation of blood. Blood is heat coagulated. Now there is absence of bruising and vital reaction. Absence of bruising and there is no vital reaction. These are present. The absence, the bruising and vital reaction will be present in lacerated wounds. Now the nerves and vessels in the floor are intact. Nerve and vessels in the floor of wound are intact. These are basically lacerated. The nerves and vessels are lacerated. Tissue bruising is the characteristic feature of lacerated wound. Now these are the injuries, the heat ruptures basically associated with burns, and these are associated with trauma. They can be seen in various type of traumatic injuries. Now these are the external findings. Now we will be covering the internal findings. So internal finding first is the heat hematoma. Sometimes there may be formation of heat hematoma. Heat hematoma is basically collection of blood in extradural space, somewhat like extradural hemorrhage. But there is a difference between heat hematoma and traumatic hematoma. Now the heat hematoma is the characteristic appearance of heat hematoma is like honeycomb. So it appears like honeycomb because of air bubbles. It appears like honeycomb. This is characteristic features, and it is light chocolate in color. There may be pink color due to carbon monoxide. These heat hematomas are soft and friable. They may be diffuse as compared to EDH. The traumatic EDH is always localized, and it is rubbery. It is not friable, it is rubbery and reddish to purple in color. Now what happens in heat hematomas? There is expansion of blood in diploe, and there is rupture of dural venous sinuses. So these are basically due to rupture of dural venous sinuses due to and expansion of diploes. Now there won't be any injury, there won't be any CNS injury is seen in case of heat hematoma. These injuries may be seen in case of traumatic extradural hemorrhages. Now some important finding is carboxyhemoglobin is raised in heat hematoma, but it is not so in case of the traumatic extradural hemorrhage. So carboxyhemoglobin is one important finding. Now the carboxyhemoglobin is very significant, and usually it's more than 10%, but in some cases there may be 70 to 80% raised carboxyhemoglobin, and level of carboxyhemoglobin is depends on the hemoglobin concentration in the blood and the duration of exposure and rate and depth of respiration. These are some of the factors which are basically decide the level of carboxyhemoglobin in blood. Now the heat fractures are known as thermal fractures. These are the injuries. Basically what happens, the skull is severely burnt, and there is increase intracranial pressure by steam. As in cases of burn, there is increased ICP, and it leads to expansion of intracranial structures and separation of sutures. So it's basically due to separation of sutures and leads to wide gapping and elevated heat fractures. So the margins in heat fractures will be the elevated margins as compared to the traumatic fractures or the depressed fractures in which the margins are depressed. This is the difference. That these are the fractures due to blunt trauma, and these are the fractures due to excessive heat. Now one characteristic finding is something is known as the carbon or soot particles. So these are the particles. The soot particles are embedded in mucus lying in this on the surface of nose, mouth, larynx and trachea. So these are embedded carbon particles. Now the presence of these carbon particles in the terminal bronchiole can be analyzed histologically in the terminal bronchioles is one strong proof of antemortem burns. This is strong proof of antemortem burns. Now something is possible that carbon particles are forced up to the terminal bronchioles. They may be forced up to the terminal bronchioles in dead body. If the dead body is placed in closed burning room, if some dead body is placed in closed burning room, the carbon particle may enter up to the terminal bronchioles. But presence of carboxyhemoglobin with external burns can only be explained that victim was respiring at the time of death. So this is the surest sign. So soot particle or carbon particle may be seen in case of if the dead body is placed in the closed burning room, but the level of carboxyhemoglobin with external burns, the raised level with external burns, is surest sign of antemortem burns. Now the amount of soot, basically the amount of soot deposition depends upon the duration of survival. The duration from which the person was respiring, the duration of survival is deciding factor for the amount of soot deposition. Now the basic question that is repeatedly asked in various university examination: what is the difference between antemortem and postmortem burns? The most characteristic finding is the line of demarcation or line of redness. So line of redness is basically due to marked inflammatory changes, and there is leukocyte infiltration. So the line of redness or zone of hyperemia, it is basically burnt and unburnt. This is the transition line between burnt and unburnt areas. This line won't be seen in case of post-mortem burns, so it is absent. Now the peripheral zone shows reparative enzyme, increased level of enzymes in case of antemortem burns. These are not so in case of post-mortem burns. Carboxyhemoglobin levels are raised in antemortem burns. These are not raised in case of post-mortem burns. Now the blisters seen in antemortem burns are red and inflamed with exudates which is rich in protein and chloride. Exudates are rich in protein and chloride. Now the base in the postmortem burns are pale, dry and hard, without any hyperemia around, no hyperemia, and these are filled with air. So this is the basic difference between antemortem and postmortem burns. Now a little bit about scalds. So scalds are basically as a result of application of liquid or steam. So these are due to application of hot liquid or steam. These are known as scalds. Now it can be due to some immersion in the hot liquid. Immersion can be due to splash, or can be simply due to spillover. These are the causes of scalds. Now mostly if the liquid is above 60 degrees Celsius or due to steam. Basically scalds are at or below the site of contact. These are at the site or the below the site of contacts, because liquid tends to flow down. So that's why these are at or below the site of contact. There is sharply defined edges. Edges are sharply defined in case of scalds. The skin is sodden and bleached, and there is no charring as compared to flame burns. There is no charring, no singeing, and no ulcerations. Now basically scars are thin and less contracted in case of scald burns, and clothes are basically wet, not burnt. Clothes are important finding. The clothes will be wet. These are not burnt in case of scalds. So this is a little bit explanation of scalds. So far we have covered thermal deaths, thermal injuries, and in thermal injuries we have covered burns and scalds and various types of burn, what is the mechanism and internal findings, and the medical legal significance. What is the significance of carboxyhemoglobin? What is the significance of soot particles? What is the difference between antemortem and postmortem burns, and the scalds and all. The pugilistic attitude is another important short note as well as MCQ that is repeatedly asked in various entrance examination. So thank you guys, and please do subscribe and give your valuable feedbacks. I'll regularly try to cover all the remaining topics in coming months. So thank you so much.